On April 5, 1909, the Arizona Gazette ran a front-page story with a headline that was, honestly, impossible to ignore. Explorations in Grand Canyon, mysteries of immense rich cavern being brought to light. This wasn't just some little notice hidden in the back pages. This was a bold declaration that promised a discovery to rival the opening of King Tut's tomb. The article claimed that a lone explorer, working for the Smithsonian Institution, had stumbled upon something truly extraordinary, deep within the canyon's remote, rugged cliffs. It spoke of a subterranean city, a vast network of tunnels filled with artifacts that seemed to rewrite the entire history of the Americas. For a world still enchanted by tales of lost cities and hidden treasures, this news was absolutely electrifying. Imagine just for a moment picking up your morning paper and reading about a discovery that, well, defies all known history. It's the kind of story that grabs your imagination and just refuses to let go. The Gazette's report was detailed and specific, painting this vivid picture of a civilization that, by all accounts, really shouldn't have existed in that part of the world. It described relics of Oriental or even Egyptian origin, found thousands of miles from where they belonged. The article wasn't just hinting at a small settlement, it was describing a massive underground fortress, a place of immense historical significance that had been hidden from human eyes for millennia. This was the stuff of adventure novels, but here it was, being presented as fact, sparking a fire of curiosity that, in many ways, has never really been extinguished. The story spread like wildfire, capturing the public's fascination with the vast, untamed American West. The Grand Canyon was, and still is, a place of immense natural wonder, but this article suggested it held secrets far beyond its geological beauty. It proposed that deep beneath the sun-baked rock, a lost chapter of human history was just waiting to be read. The report named names, including a Professor S.A. Jordan and the explorer G.E. Kincaid, which really gave it an air of authenticity. It was a perfect storm of mystery, adventure, and the promise of uncovering a truth that could change everything we thought we knew about the ancient world and the people who lived in North America long before Columbus ever arrived. The power of that 1909 article lies in its tantalizing details and, honestly, the questions it raised. Who were these people? Where did they come from? And why did they build a city deep inside the earth? The story set the stage for a century of speculation, debate, and independent investigation. It was a narrative that tapped into our deep-seated human desire to believe that there are still great mysteries left to solve, that the map of our world isn't fully drawn, and that just around the next corner, or in this case down the next canyon, lies a discovery that could leave us breathless. This single newspaper article became the foundation of one of the most enduring legends of the American Southwest. The man at the center of this incredible story was an explorer named G.E. Kincaid. According to the Gazette article, Kincaid was an experienced adventurer and archaeologist who had spent years prospecting for minerals along the Colorado River. He was described as a man of substance, not prone to wild tales or flights of fancy, which, honestly, made his account all the more compelling. His journey began not as a quest for a lost city, but as a simple expedition by boat down the river. He was alone, paddling through one of the most isolated and dangerous stretches of the canyon, a place where, frankly, few people ever dared to venture. This isolation is a key part of the story, since it adds to the mystery and makes his discovery feel both plausible and incredibly remote. One day, while navigating the river, Kincaid noticed something unusual. About 2,000 feet up the sheer canyon wall, he saw strange stains in the sedimentary rock, suggesting the presence of a cave entrance that was almost perfectly hidden from view. His curiosity piqued, he undertook the difficult and dangerous climb to investigate. He described the entrance as being located in an extremely inaccessible part of the canyon wall, a place you would never find unless you were specifically looking for it. The ledge leading to the cave was narrow and precarious, making the approach a life-threatening challenge in itself. It was clear that whoever created this entrance wanted it to remain a secret, hidden from the world below. Upon reaching the ledge, Kincaid found a small opening, a doorway that seemed to have been carved by human hands. It was the entrance to a massive underground cavern. As he ventured inside, armed with only a rifle and a flashlight, he realized he had stumbled upon something far beyond a simple cave. He found himself in a long tunnel that led deep into the rock, with other passages branching off in different directions. The air was musty and still, filled with the silence of centuries. He reported that the main passage was about 12 feet wide, and he followed it for nearly a mile into the mountain, a journey into the unknown that must have been both thrilling and terrifying. Kincaid's initial exploration revealed a complex that was clearly man-made. The walls were smooth and precisely cut, and the tunnels were laid out with an intentional design, almost like the streets of a city. He described side chambers filled with various artifacts and even what appeared to be storage rooms, some still containing seeds and other supplies. He was walking through the remains of a civilization that had been sealed away from the world. This wasn't just a discovery of a few scattered relics, it was the unearthing of an entire underground metropolis. A find so significant that Kincaid knew he couldn't explore it alone. He immediately contacted the Smithsonian Institution to report his find, setting in motion the next, even more mysterious chapter of the story. As G.E. Kincaid ventured deeper into the subterranean complex, the sights he described became, honestly, increasingly strange and wondrous. The main tunnel opened into a massive central chamber, a huge circular room from which numerous other passageways radiated out like the spokes of a wheel. It was clear this was the heart of the underground city. In the center of this grand room stood the most remarkable object of all, a life-sized statue. Kincaid reported that it was carved from a hard, crystal-like substance and depicted a figure sitting cross-legged, holding a flower in each hand. The design was described as having an Oriental or possibly Buddhist appearance, something completely out of place in the ancient American Southwest. The artifacts scattered throughout the various rooms were just as perplexing. Kincaid spoke of discovering tools and weapons made from a metal he couldn't identify, possibly a hardened form of copper. These weren't primitive stone tools, they were finely crafted implements that suggested an advanced level of metallurgy. He found beautifully decorated pottery, urns, and vases of exquisite design, many of them still intact after thousands of years. The craftsmanship was unlike anything he had ever seen from Native American cultures. The sheer volume and quality of these items pointed to a rich and sophisticated society, one that valued art and technology in equal measure. Every new chamber he entered seemed to hold another piece of an impossible puzzle. One of the most significant finds was a room filled with tablets covered in a form of writing that no one could decipher. These weren't the familiar petroglyphs found on canyon walls throughout the region. Kincaid described them as hieroglyphs, intricate symbols that were more akin to those of ancient Egypt or Asia. This discovery was a bombshell. If true, it meant that a literate civilization with connections to the Old World had established a colony in the Grand Canyon long before any recorded history. The tablets held the potential to tell the story of these people, their origins, their beliefs, and their ultimate fate. But without a key to translate them, they remained a silent, tantalizing mystery that only deepened the enigma of the underground city. The very construction of the citadel was a marvel. Kincaid reported that the rooms were perfectly ventilated, with circular shafts cutting deep into the mountain, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of engineering. There were granaries filled with ancient seeds, workshops with tools laid out as if the workers had just left, and residential quarters that could have housed thousands of people. The scale of the place was staggering. It wasn't a temporary shelter, but a permanent, thriving city built to last. Kincaid had not just found a cave, he had found a lost world, a self-contained civilization that had somehow vanished, leaving behind a perfectly preserved ghost town buried deep within the earth. The sheer size of the underground city was one of its most astonishing features. Kincaid estimated that the complex could have comfortably housed at least 50,000 people. The main passageway alone stretched for nearly a mile, and the numerous side chambers and levels suggested a massive, well-organized community. The rooms were laid out with a deliberate and logical structure, indicating a society with a clear social hierarchy and division of labor. There were large halls that could have been used for public gatherings, smaller rooms that seemed to be living quarters, and even a designated area that appeared to be a place of worship or government. The entire city was a testament to incredible planning and a colossal amount of effort. Perhaps the most startling discovery of all was the crypt, a room filled with mummies. These were not the typical mummified remains found in other parts of the world. Each body was laid out on a carved shelf, wrapped in dark, woven fabric. Kincaid noted with surprise that all of the mummies he saw were male, and they were all exceptionally tall, some measuring over 9 feet. This detail added another layer of mystery to the story. Who were these giants? Were they a ruling class, a group of warriors, or something else entirely? The absence of women and children in the crypt was unsettling, suggesting a specific cultural practice or a catastrophic event that had selectively claimed the city's inhabitants. The entire city was also covered in mysterious symbols and hieroglyphs. These weren't just on the tablets, they were carved into the walls, on the pottery, and even on the strange copper tools. The symbols were consistently described as being of an Egyptian or Oriental style. One recurring image was a figure holding a triangle, another a cross-like symbol. These markings were the language of this lost civilization, a story waiting to be told. If these hieroglyphs could be deciphered, they would unlock the secrets of where these people came from, what they believed, and why they chose to build their homes so deep within the earth. The presence of such foreign symbols in the heart of North America was a direct challenge to the established historical timeline. The atmosphere of the city was described as heavy and oppressive. The silence was absolute, broken only by the sound of Kincaid's own footsteps echoing through the dark halls. He mentioned a strange, unidentifiable smell that permeated the air, a scent of dust and decay that had been sealed for ages. There was a palpable sense of tragedy, of a great society that had met a sudden and unknown end. The city was a perfectly preserved tomb, a place where time had stood still. It was a ghost city in the truest sense, and exploring its silent, shadowed corridors must have been an experience that was both awe-inspiring and deeply unsettling. According to the 1909 Arizona Gazette article, G.E. Kincaid was not just a freelance treasure hunter, he was an explorer funded by the prestigious Smithsonian Institution. After his initial discovery, he sent word to a Professor S.A. Jordan, who was then dispatched by the Smithsonian to lead a formal archaeological expedition. The article states that this team began a thorough investigation of the site, cataloging artifacts and mapping the vast network of tunnels. The story presents the Smithsonian's involvement as official confirmation. Having such a respected scientific institution at the helm gave the incredible claims an undeniable stamp of credibility and suggested that a major public announcement was imminent. The newspaper report went into great detail about the Smithsonian's plans. It claimed that the institution was taking great care to protect the site, establishing a security presence to guard the entrance. The article mentioned that the government had taken steps to cordon off the entire area, declaring it federal property to ensure the artifacts could be studied without interference. The plan was to excavate the entire city, a process that would likely take years. The public was led to believe that this was the beginning of one of the most significant archaeological projects in history. However, this is where the official story ends and the mystery deepens. After that initial explosive front-page article, there was a deafening silence. The Smithsonian never made any further announcements about the Grand Canyon discovery. No artifacts from this supposed underground city have ever been put on display. When questioned about the story in later years, the Smithsonian has consistently denied any knowledge of a G.E. Kincaid, a Professor S.A. Jordan, or any lost Egyptian-style city in the Grand Canyon. Their official position is that the entire story was a hoax, a piece of sensational journalism cooked up by the Arizona Gazette to sell newspapers. This official denial has only fueled the flames of conspiracy theories for over a century. If the story was just a hoax, why was it so detailed and specific? Why would a reputable newspaper print such a fabrication on its front page? For many, the Smithsonian's denial feels less like a clarification and more like a cover-up. The theory goes that the institution did, in fact, find the city, but the artifacts were so paradigm-shifting, so disruptive to the established historical narrative, that they decided to suppress the discovery. The idea is that proof of an advanced transoceanic civilization in ancient America would be too controversial, so the evidence was hidden away in a secret warehouse, never to be seen again. The story of the lost city might have faded into obscurity if not for the efforts of later investigators who refused to let it die. One of the most notable modern-day seekers was a man named John Rizzi, a researcher and author who became obsessed with the Kincaid legend. Rizzi claimed to have spent years searching for the cave's location, using the original 1909 article as his guide. He believed the story was true, and that evidence of the cover-up was still waiting to be found. His journey took him deep into the more remote and restricted areas of the Grand Canyon, places where the average tourist is not allowed to go. Rizzi's search led him to what he believed was the original site of Kincaid's discovery. He claimed to have found a cave entrance that matched the description in the newspaper, located in a highly restricted area of the canyon. However, he reported that the entrance had been sealed, possibly with explosives, and that the area was heavily guarded. He spoke of seeing armed guards patrolling the vicinity and being warned away by men in unmarked helicopters. According to Rizzi, these were not park rangers. They were a private security force whose sole job was to keep people away from that specific location, a place that was officially supposed to hold nothing of interest. This account of armed guards and sealed caves added a sinister new dimension to the legend. It transformed the story from a historical mystery into an active, ongoing conspiracy. Rizzi's claim suggested that not only had the Smithsonian suppressed the find a century ago, but that some powerful entity, perhaps a shadowy government agency, was still working to keep the secret buried. He warned other researchers to be careful, claiming that he had been followed, harassed, and threatened for getting too close to the truth. His story painted a picture of a dangerous secret, one that people were willing to go to great lengths to protect. Of course, Rizzi's claims are just as difficult to verify as Kincaid's original story. There is no independent proof of the armed guards, the sealed cave, or the threats he reported. Skeptics argue that he was simply adding his own fictional chapter to an existing hoax, attempting to gain fame or sell books. But for believers in the lost city, his testimony is crucial. It serves as modern-day evidence that the cover-up is real and ongoing. Whether Rizzi was a dedicated truth seeker or a clever storyteller, his account reignited interest in the Kincaid legend and ensured that the mystery of the Grand Canyon's underground city would continue to intrigue a new generation of adventurers. So what is the truth behind this incredible tale? Over the years, several theories have emerged to explain the origins of this supposed lost civilization. One of the most prominent ideas is that the city was built by ancient Egyptians or another Near Eastern culture. Proponents suggest that ancient mariners had the capability to cross the Atlantic and traveled up the Colorado River to establish a remote colony. The Grand Canyon would have provided a perfect, defensible location, hidden from the outside world. This theory would explain the Egyptian-style artifacts and the mummies, but it flies in the face of mainstream archaeology. Another popular theory connects the city to ancient peoples from Asia. The description of the central statue as Buddhist-like and the hieroglyphs as Oriental has led some to speculate that the builders came from Tibet or China. This idea is often linked to esoteric beliefs about a global network of underground cities inhabited by an ancient, highly advanced race. In this version, the Grand Canyon Citadel is just one of many hidden centers of wisdom and power. These theories often move beyond conventional history into the realm of mysticism and the paranormal, suggesting a civilization with abilities far beyond our own. Then there is the possibility that the entire story is nothing more than an elaborate hoax. This is the official stance of the Smithsonian Institution and the most widely accepted explanation. They argue that the Arizona Gazette simply invented the story to create a sensation and boost sales. In the early 20th century, yellow journalism was common, and newspapers often printed fantastical stories with little regard for the truth. Skeptics point out that no verifiable evidence has ever surfaced, no artifacts, no official Smithsonian records, and no trace of the explorers in any historical documents. From this perspective, the legend is just entertaining fiction. Yet despite the lack of hard evidence, the story endures. Why? Because the Grand Canyon is a place that invites mystery. It is one of the largest and least explored places on the planet, with countless caves, side canyons, and crevices that have never been seen by human eyes. The possibility that something ancient and extraordinary remains hidden within its depths is a powerful and romantic idea. Whether Kincaid City was real, a hoax, or something in between, it has become a permanent part of the canyon's mythology. It reminds us that there are still great unknowns in our world, and it continues to fuel the spirit of exploration, urging us to keep looking for the secrets that may be hidden just beneath the surface.